Hello, you guys. So today, I was watching another YouTuber, and this doesn't happen, like every day, but these kinds of occurrences are happening more often. I'll put it that way. And what happened was, I saw that this person had uploaded a new video, and so I began to watch her video. And as I began to watch her video, she was literally describing something that happened to me also, a few days ago. And I couldn't believe I couldn't believe that she was basically, as she was describing her, something she went through in her video, and she was describing my experience, and I'm like, how is that fucking possible? I don't know. But I don't even question anymore. I shouldn't question, because these synchronicities that happen, like I say, are becoming more and more frequent. And this is one of them. So in her video, she explained her experience, and she explained what it was, her take on what happened. It dawned on me that I had the same experience, but I didn't realize what exactly it was or meant. I didn't realize what it really meant. And when she described what her experience meant, it's like all kinds of things fell into place in my head. So, and what I'll tell you now what I experienced. So, this was almost a week ago, and I was in my kitchen. I have a cough drop in my mouth, excuse me, I'm almost done with it. So I was in my kitchen, and it was late afternoon, and my husband was in the living room, and we were talking over you can see over the kitchen bar into the living room where he was at. So I'm in the kitchen, and I'm talking to him, and we're talking, and I'm putting pans away. I'm putting clean pans from the dishwasher away in the cabinet. And as I did this is going to sound really crazy now, okay? So those of you who, want to think I'm crazy, go ahead. It's hard for me to wrap my head around it, and the experience is actually happening to me. So the first thing I think is like, oh my God, I must be crazy. You know what I mean? So I get it. I get it. But anyway, so I was putting pots and pans away in the cabinet, and as I turned to walk to the dishwasher, it was like, I'm trying to explain it the best way I can. It was like an overlay into what I was doing now, and I think I'm pretty sure I don't know if this is how some mediums or psychics, when they have experiences where all of a sudden they're someplace else, even though they're still standing in their room. You know what I mean? I kind of wondered if that's what this was, if that's how it was like for people who experience that, because I was here in the present, standing, talking to my husband, moving around in my kitchen here, but at the same time, I was making the same sort of movements and talking, only in this overlay, I was talking to my ex-husband who's passed away. And I was in my kitchen in that house that I lived with my ex-husband in. So, it was so quick. It happened very quickly. Like, I'm talking like not even 2 seconds maybe. It was so quick. It was maybe like a second and a half, and then it was gone. And even the color, there was the overlay or whatever, I'm just going to call it an overlay because I have no fucking idea. The overlay of this other, being in the kitchen back in that house, it was a different color. It was sort of like a sepia tone color, like a peach color. I don't know, it was very strange. But that makes sense, come to think of it, because my kitchen in Las Lunas was peach. I painted the walls peach, and the blinds were peach also. Interesting. So, and I didn't know what to make of it. And then it went away, and I'm still in the kitchen. I'm in my kitchen here, and I was like, in my head, I'm thinking, what the hell was that? And it was so astounding. I just said to my husband, and he could tell something, like, what? He was like, what happened? And I'm like, I don't know. It was like I was here, but I was in my kitchen in Las Lunas talking, and it was just really strange. And so after that, I was just really curious and racking my brain, trying to figure out what that thing might have been. I was thinking, like, well, maybe it was just like a really, really vivid daydream or imagination, but no. I know what that is, and this was different. I felt, just for a nanosecond, I actually felt like I was in both places at once. I don't know how to explain it, but that's what was happening. And so now cut to today, when I watched this other YouTuber's video, and she's describing how she's describing her experience that she has had real recently, where she talks about collapsing a timeline. Some of you watching will are familiar with the word timeline, because people in the spiritual community, metaphysical community, esoteric community, religious community, and other things. And it's used a lot, but it's sometimes hard to really get a handle on what it means. Or it did for me anyway. I always knew, I understood the concept of timelines. I believed, I get it. But to experience collapsing a timeline, holy cow, it's totally different than believing in that. Just experiencing it and believing it. Oh my gosh. So anyway, what I learned from watching this YouTuber describe her experience was, basically, she answered my question, because when I had that experience in the kitchen with my husband, like I say, after that I continued to search in my own mind about what it might mean. And I asked God, like I always do, the God that Jesus talks about in the Bible. That's the God I'm talking about. That's the God I know. And so I asked him, and I asked him in my own head, not out loud, please show me what this means somehow, because I'm not really sure. Am I just going crazy? Is that what it is? And so when I watched this video today, I got the very distinct, strong feeling, because I am an empath, that this was the answer. And she described in this YouTuber's video how she inadvertently, I guess, collapsed a timeline in which she was in a relationship with her soulmate, or her twin flame, I can't remember which, because they are two different things. And she was saying how that when she did that, she opened the door to have a relationship with, to have a more nurturing relationship with her twin flame, which is what she wants, because twin flames are the ones that you generally work with together. You do work together. You do usually, you're on the same page spiritually, and you do spiritual work together. And that's one of the ways one can differentiate twin flames versus a soulmate. Okay, and that's what she was explaining this, and I already know this to be true, but she was explaining this in her video today. And it just blew my mind, and here's why. Now I'm going to tell you my story. So, when I was married to my ex-husband, let's just say I've known my ex-husband since I was 23, and he passed away when I was about 47 or 48. And we had divorced when I was 44. He was 15 years older than me. But we met at work. People that knew him and knew us put us together because they said we were like the same person, only different genders. And we were the same, like the same person. And I've always, anyway, cut to, so anyway, I went through a lot of learning, a lot of pain, a lot of me hurting him, a lot of me hurting myself, a lot of guilt when he passed away. And we remained friends after we divorced, as naturally we would. But after I divorced him, and he was very depressed afterwards. He kind of, he died of heart failure, basically. And so, as naturally I would, I figured this was totally my fault, and for divorcing my best friend, and he was my best friend. We were best friends before we were married. But at that time, I was newly sober, and Michael drank, and I wanted to have children. I was getting in my 30s, and I really wanted to have children in a stable home environment. And at the time, I felt the father needed to have more maturity. So I was in a very judging frame of mind, I guess, at that point in my life. I was less apt to sort of just roll with things and roll with life and deal with the punches and just deal with life. That really rocked my world. I wanted certain things a certain way. I had always pictured, I would have kids and have this kind of family home life for them, and drinking wasn't part of it anymore. And so that was my main reason at the time. He wasn't a drunk, like mean or sloppy. He was a competent person. He had a good job, but when he was home, he drank a lot, and I couldn't handle it at the time. And this created a festering kind of thing between us, and I chose to let it come between us, I guess, and not, we tried to work on it, but ultimately I got a divorce from him. And so when he did pass away, I really felt this was my fault because, he did say he was brokenhearted. So I remember as we were divorcing, we really didn't want to get divorced, but neither one of us wanted to stop this process. It was like a train, getting the divorce. And all our friends were like helping us move and stuff, and we still were hugging and saying we didn't want to do this, but we did it because we were both too proud, I guess. And so what I did was, on the day that we were moving my stuff out, I went up into our bedroom, mine and my ex-husband, in our previous house, and I did a meditation there in which I put part of myself there. I actually consciously put part of myself, put a part of my spirit there in the house with him. And I remember doing it. And I don't know why I did it, but I felt like I had to at the time because I didn't want to leave. So that was, oh my gosh, that was about 19, close to 20 years ago. And all this time, I have been, this is what I'm understanding today from God. I'm understanding that all this time, I have been living in another dimension on another timeline with Michael. And I knew I was on some level because there was always a part of me that was with him. I don't know how to explain it. No matter what I would do in life, literally, no matter what I would do in life or where I would go or who I would be with, Michael would always be with me. Okay? So I would, live this life, and then I would be like in my head, living that life with Michael back in that house. So, and just feeling guilty, just carrying around this thing, this awful thing. And so when this thing happened in the kitchen to me, when I was talking to my current husband, I was collapsing that timeline. And that part of myself that I had left over there came back to me. And so then I was standing in this lifetime more whole because that part of my spirit had returned to me because I had collapsed that timeline. Because, and here's another thing I didn't tell you, because about almost a week previous to that, I had come to some sort of understanding, it was like a light bulb had clicked for me spiritually about what it was. I decided to get real and honest about my relationship with Michael, about really what my part was in the disintegration of my marriage with Michael. That's what it was. I got real about what my part in the disintegration of the marriage was. And I remember it was almost sort of like not like a letting go per se, because I know I'm going to see him again. Like I say, I believe he is my soulmate. In other words, he's a member of my soul family. Unlike a twin flame who's actually sort of like the other half of you or a mirror image of you. And a soulmate will generally incarnate with you into many lifetimes and go through many lifetimes with you and knows you very well and loves you very much. And sometimes plays the enemy in a lifetime to teach you the lessons you wanted to learn. And they come with you into other lifetimes sometimes. Sometimes they don't, because they're living their lives in other dimensions or whatever. And when that happened, that timeline snap back, I call it, because that's what it felt like. It felt like a snap, like a rubber band was snapping back. Like my other part of myself was in that dimension, and that part of myself was like rubber. And it felt like that part of myself that was still at that house snapped back into this body. That's what it felt like. It actually felt that way, and it actually kind of looked that way visually. It was really bizarre. So when that happened, I felt completely different. When I say completely different, I'm still the same person. I'm saying that I gained, in addition to myself, that I've known myself to be for 20 years, I gained some aspect of me. And so I feel more whole, mentally, emotionally, physically. I feel more balanced. I feel more present in this lifetime. That's what I'm that feeling, immediately after this this thing happened where I felt like I was in two places at once, like a rubber band that snaps back. I just immediately felt more whole. I felt this awful guilt. It was almost a tangible part of me was gone. And I mean, that's exactly what happened, as I just explained it in that way, in that process. And so that's why when I watched this person's video and she was described very clearly what was a very similar situation, only she wasn't in her kitchen, and she had a subtly different situation with her partners. It just kind of blew me away. I believe that was God answering me through her video, saying, you know how you were wondering what happened? Like, what you thought happened actually happened. And her video is just validating what you already thought happened. Because on some level I knew that that's what happened, but I just always need validation. And that's what we struggle with as people developing psychic gifts, or as we become more psychic, more intuitive, more empathic, more in tune with other people, and more in tune with the planet, and more unified. This kind of thing is going to happen to more and more people, is how I understand it. And so that's all I wanted to talk about today. Just my experience, of collapsing a timeline. I no longer have a part of me living in that dimension. And I can tell. And how I can tell, it's the way that it feels. Now I can remember about living in that house with Michael and having that life. I have memories of it, and I can remember anything I want to and bring up memories, and it's great. But I'm not living there. I don't have a part of my emotional body living there. An actual, not remembering there, living there. So that part of my emotional body and my mental body is back with me. So these are things that actually happen. And I'm just so grateful that I finally dug enough in my own self to realize, what I had to realize, and heal what I had to heal, and collapse what I had to collapse in order to become more whole right now and more present for my kids and my husband. And so that's all I wanted to say. So if you've watched this far, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys are having a lovely day, and namaste, and God bless, and love and light to you. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.